I'm I'm not sure who agreed to do this, Lindsay. I think we kind of left it unresolved, so why don't we kind of do a back and forth on this? We're talking to Roscoe today, by the way. He is an ATS streamer, and he's got a big old St. Christopher Fund connection. Tara joined his stream in midstream,
Yes.
and it's
I
crazy.
love this. Tara, our own Tara the Turtle has become quite the creeper around here, creeping in, sliding into people's DMs, finding us all kinds of dreamers and schemers and streamers and influencers, and it's working so far. She hasn't sent us a dud yet. So Roscoe, no pressure, no pressure, except all the pressure in the world. Just kidding. No, but and this is real. This is a real meeting of the minds and a grouping of the Radio Nemo family today, because we also have to intro our namesake and the legend that is Dave Nemo jumping in with us. So good morning, Dave. How are you?
Well, good morning. Good morning. Hey, I'm really looking forward to talking with Roscoe, but I just want to say a word about Lee Livingston. Wow. When I grow up, I want to be just like him.
Well, there's still time, Dave, because he is older than you, as you pointed out. So you
I
still can,
know.
you can do it. Well, I think a Radio Nemo road trip is in the works, so we can all really get to know each other. We just won't drive our cars off the ledge, hopefully. So Dave is going to. We specifically wanted Dave to join us today because Roscoe, who's joining us, who you can find over on all the social media platforms, but his live stream you can find on TikTok, and it's at Roscoe713TX. Where you can find him over there. But he's a dad, he's a streamer, and he's Tara found him, as Jimmy said, and he's got this banner on his stream that says "Ask me about the Truckers Fund," which obviously piqued our interest. That's obviously referencing the St. Christopher Fund, which we talk about so much on this show, and so we thought it only appropriate to have Dave Nemo joining us as well. But so please make welcome to the show. Say good morning to our new friend Roscoe joining us, dad, worker, streamer, and dreamer. Good morning, Roscoe. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and what a wonderful way to introduce me. Can we do this every time I start streaming?
Sure, sure. You're going to have to pay us some of your ad dollars, but no, just kidding.
Well, there
No,
you go. There you go.
no,
As
no,
long
no.
as it goes toward the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund,
There
we're
you go.
good, right?
Boom, boom.
Okay.
There it is.
Roscoe, let's
So,
start
thank
with
you.
a basic. Let's start with a basic, simple origin story. Let's get right down to it. Talk about your love of gaming and talk about how you got into streaming.
Oh, awesome. Great way to start there. I've been gaming all my life. I go back to the days of my pop bringing home a Commodore 64, if anybody can remember that relic, and playing on a PC and then going through, from Nintendos to PlayStations to Xbox, standing in line at Toys R Us to get the latest and greatest Xbox 360. So I'm dating myself there, but I've always been gaming, lots of sports games and stuff like that. And, the great thing with that is the interactivity that you can have with others globally. So when you're playing in games and you're speaking with people in other, states, countries, it gets to be that way to reach out and talk with people. So it kind of graduated for me several years ago, and I was sitting there, and my little Roscoes were like, "Dad, you should stream." I'm like, "Okay, let's
What's
see what we
that?
got to do here." So yeah, I was like, "We can do it." I mean, I watched other streamers. I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome to be able to do that," but I'm also a full-time guy as far as full-time career. So like, okay, how are we going to do this? So of course, get the blessing from Mrs. Roscoe, right? You got to make sure you get that blessing. And
Good
by the
man.
way, just I'll say thank you to God, but also thank you very much to Mrs. Roscoe for letting me do what I get to do creatively on the side.
God and
And
Mrs. Roscoe is a good name for your memoir, by the way.
there you go, there you go. And so what happened was I started streaming like first-person shooter games, like the Call of Duties and stuff like that. But my key thing with it was I couldn't interact that well with the audience, and because you're playing a game that's so intense that you can't really talk with them. And so I found myself wanting something different. So I started playing a little bit of online golf. That's cool. Started doing that, and started off on YouTube, and really liked the platform, but I made it over to American Truck Simulator because it was on sale on Steam for like $5, and I'm like, well, $5. I've spent $5 on a coffee. what, could be wrong with that? And I ended up getting the game, started loading up, started streaming it, and next thing you know, it just became an addiction. But it kind of goes back to my childhood is I always watched Smokey and the Bandit as a kid. I always wanted to be Snowman, didn't really want to be Bandit. So with that, I started streaming and then started building these trucks and having fun. And then we started having more things along the lines of drivers coming in. And in the industries I've worked in, I've always had a connection with drivers and trucks in the industries and logistics and stuff like that. So it's always been a part of my career, so to speak.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Roscoe, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just say before we throw it over to Dave, I want to ask you because you mentioned at the very beginning of that answer about the connection piece, the interconnection, and being able to form these relationships. So, how long have you been streaming? Not playing. I know you've been playing forever. How long have you been streaming?
Oh, I would say I could clock it probably only November of 23.
23. Okay, because I was going to ask you then, since you weren't streaming during COVID, I assume you played a lot. You were gaming a lot during COVID. Is that a fair assumption?
Fair assumption, yeah. And I go on every once in a while and go live, but truly to say that I started streaming would be November of 23, and that's when I started. Right around that time, I switched over to American Truck Simulator, and then in 24 moved over to TikTok. Now, what happened is I got what is called a hall pass over there, and I started with 136 followers. You're supposed to have 1,000 before you can stream, but I was gracious enough by, the TikTok, personnel and God to get us started over there, and we hit 5,000 within the first 5,000 followers within the first maybe 4 or 5 months, and after that it went to 10,000, and now we're creeping into almost 15,000 right now. So 15,000 followers, and then we now have this great Roscoe and Friends crew that is also a part of this. And I have to shout out to my Roscoe and Friends crew because, they also are just the lifeblood, as your Road Dog Nation of the channel. And so they're just a great bunch of men and women that support this cause. But also, it's amazing when you're sitting there streaming and we try to keep it as friendly as possible, with even, just the language, music, everything. So I've got some great moderators out there. But the other thing, too, is that you'll have, somebody come in, and I think this is kind of how Tara got involved, is somebody said they had something happen, and they asked for a prayer. And, of course, being a man of faith, 100% I'm going to pray for you. So, that's something that is pretty heartfelt for us to be able to sit there and pray for others. And just as even last night, we had someone in our Discord in our prayer section that asked for prayer, and you have like 5 or 6, 7 people saying, "Hey, we're praying for you. We're praying for you." That just becomes a whole other world of greater purpose. And that's where it's like this sense of community and this building of community is most important. It's not the number of followers, but it's the interconnection that you have. And that's kind of how it's really kind of grown into this whole other world of my life. And it's just got great purpose. And I just feel it's kind of a sense of God just saying, okay, you got a greater purpose here. And it's amazing.
Roscoe, Dave, we got to take 1 minute here, play a little bit of music for a second, Dre, so I can do a little bit of a timestamp here and take care of the people that take care of us. When we come back on the other side of this little tune and this timestamp, we're going to throw it to Dave Nemo, who I'm sure has a couple of questions here. Roscoe joins us this morning. We'll give you the deets on the other side, but Dre, take us away. 746. And by the way, over here at Radio Nemo, we actually cover all 50 states and the provinces. You know who else does that at 746? Truckdown.com. They serve them all. They connect trucking companies with service providers to reduce delays, return you to the road, and get you back to earning. The time is now for Truckdown.com at 746. The time is now for Roscoe, Lindsay Lawler, Phone Master Dre, and of course Dave Nemo. Welcome back to your Weekend 34. Dave, what you got for Roscoe?
Well, I don't know where to jump in, guys, because I wrote down some notes here. Roscoe, you brought up a lot of very interesting areas to kind of go down, but I just want to tell you, I kind of chuckled a little bit when you said what your first video game was. I'm going to tell you what my first video game, well, the first video game I ever saw, didn't even know they existed until my girlfriend, I'm in high school, my girlfriend and I walk into her house. Her little brother is playing Pong. Have you ever played Pong? Have you ever seen Pong?
I will date myself and say yes. I have played Pong on the Atari. Absolutely.
It was like the most amazing thing we've ever seen in our lives. And we're watching this thing. And we would sit there for hours just watching this thing. And Lord have mercy, what the American Truck Simulator software looks like is stunning. I was looking at the new I guess it was earlier this year that the Missouri game came out, right?
Yeah, so the Missouri DLC came out, and this is just kind of shout out to SES Software. They're the creators of not only American Truck Simulator, but also Euro Truck Simulator too. And I do play both, which is a lot of great fun. And you get the different trucks from a Scania to, now, like last night I'm running an old Pete 362, so a lot of fun.
I was going to ask you about the folks who are playing, is that a good word to use? Do you guys play? What is the word? Is there a better word than play?
You could say play, you could say game, you could, for me it's stream, but, playing, they're playing a game. They're playing a game, and, the fact is, but you're also mocking it up to real life because you are moving tonnage, you are moving, you're doing over-the-road trucking, you're maybe doing a local delivery. But the cool thing about the, SCS software, not only do they have a good majority of the states that we have, but we're also, SCS software is coming out with Illinois. They're releasing Iowa next, and then Louisiana. And being a Texas kid, I've been in Louisiana so many times. It's going to be interesting driving over the Atchafalaya Basin because we've done it so many times.
Well, and by the way, the idea of driving in Louisiana, how much of that simulation is actually underwater is the question I would have for you, Roscoe. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Close to water or close to a gator. Or if you're on, the old I-10, it's dum-dum, dum-dum, dum-dum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The famous line I always say, when you enter Louisiana, it should say dip next 254 miles.
Yeah.
That's kind of classic.
My joke about I-10 is put your laundry in a bucket with some soap and water and just drive up and down I-10 in Louisiana. You got your laundry done,
There you go. That's awesome.
But so you're streaming and gaming, but who are the gamers that are in the community? And it is a community. Trucking is a community. We can go down that road, but we won't do that right now. But is it folks from all walks of life, and are there professional truck drivers who are into it?
Oh yeah. So just to start from a global aspect, you're sitting there streaming. My stream usually is at night. So I stream because I have a career, and so if I get that time, it's usually a couple hours in the evening. And so obviously the other side of the world is actually waking up. So you'll have people join in from other locations and they'll say where they're from. And so you have this, community of, people that are here talking in the chat, and they're from all walks of life. Now, the gamers, a lot of them are the enthusiasts that play American Truck Simulator. Some of them just stumble upon the stream, scrolling through and stop. And then another, obviously, is you have your loyal crew that comes in, and that's our Roscoe and Friends crew. In that crew, though, you also, and outside, you also have drivers that come in. They be maybe sitting in a cab at a QT, or they're maybe sitting in a cab at a Love's, finishing their dinner and they're scrolling through TikTok, and next thing you know, they see this guy streaming and there's some music and we're playing with these different trucks and hey, what's going on? But that's the amazing part is because, when you get an opportunity like that and they say, hey, I'm a driver out here, man, thank you for what you're doing. For so many industries out there that don't get enough thank yous, and I always talk about this, there's two that I can think of, well, three, you say military and bless all of them, but then also our teachers and our drivers do not get enough thank yous. And for that matter, if somebody bought something, a truck brought it. So the thing is there's not enough thank yous for what they do because it is a very strenuous job out there of being in a cab for 14 hours. You've got, a company, you've got delivery, you've got all these different things, missing family in that same sense. So if I can just send a prayer to them and say thank you, I mean, it's just the least I can do for thanking them for what they do each and every day on the road.
So, Roscoe, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Texas. I am a Texas girl myself.
Yep.
And I'm curious to you because you've got TX in your screen name. You've got a big Texas bold logo, the state of there in your logo. Your big thing is howdy, howdy. So talk to me about how much, besides loving Texas, and we all know everything's bigger in Texas and people from Texas are equal parts awesome and obnoxious, and we own it. But talk to me about how that plays in because you've clearly made it part of your imaging. How is that sort of a part? Does that play in to your streaming world, and have you found connections with other obnoxious Texans through it as well?
Absolutely. Texans I've been in Texas pretty much all my life. We moved when the oil was big. Oil was booming. Dad moved us here, and I've been in Texas all my life. What I can say is if you see my logo, you see there's a big Texas. You see there's a star over Houston, Texas. That's where I'm from. So if you look at it, Roscoe 713TX, 713 is the area code. So there you go, Roscoe, Houston, Texas. And the other piece of that is maroon and white. I'm an Aggie. So, Texas Aggie, we are loud and proud, and that is some good bull right there, and give them to you as well, Lindsay. With that being said, that's also where I just want to also kind of take that loud and proud and what we can do and, that selfless service that we do as Aggies. And when I'm streaming, and I started streaming, I was like, man, there's got to be something else we can do, not only just with the community of, having Sunday church trucking and, these specific things. And if you don't know what Sunday church trucking is, we're playing some Christian music, we're driving, we're having fun, we're praying for others. If you come in, you need a prayer, we'll all pray for you. But on top of that, there was a higher purpose. I was like, there has got to be a way that we can maybe utilize this to, do it for something for charity. And that's where St. Christopher Truckers Relief came in. I reached out to them and their director of philanthropy, and it was Shannon at the time. It's now Diana, and Nick over there in the media, dropping names there. But they are amazing. And we started the charity live streams, a 12-hour live stream last year. We did three of them, raised a little over $1,000. And now this year, we did our first stream in March, raised about $400, and this next one, I would announce that on June 7th, Saturday, June 7th, that is actually going to be our 14-hour stream for the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund, and all proceeds there will go to the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund, whether they donate through TikTok or if they donate directly to our St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund page that we have for Roscoe, France. And so it's a lot of fun. We drive trucks. We have good music. We have, obviously, things, the community that comes in and hangs out. And we'll be driving anywhere in the United States having a good time.
Roscoe, let me kind of take this moment to also say in regards to the games you're going to be playing next. So, I know that ATS is a real kind of gravitational point for you as well, but what else you got cooking? Is there anything that you're looking forward to playing or anything that you can't wait to get back to in your copious spare time?
It's amazing. I always, I start to play some other games, and we still play, golf and stuff like that because I actually play golf in real life. But when you've got little Roscoes, you also play with them on Fortnite or you play with them on Call of Duty and have some fun there. but I always find myself grabbing and kind of going back into American Truck Simulator. I looked at the hours before I got on here, and I've got 1,943 hours in the past when I started in November of 23. So I think it's easy to say that you'll probably see me on American Truck Simulator because we're not even halfway done with getting all the states in the United States. It might be 2036 by the time we get it, but we'll be there.
By the way, you should really at some point when you do a stream actually use Eddie Rabbit's Driving My Life Away. I'm just pointing this out, and I can say this because my wife and I literally lost our lives in the middle of a fishing game called Dredge. So there's no shame. No shame. No shame,
well, you
Roscoe.
You got to put a little Eddie Rabbit in there, absolutely, and that's for sure. That reminds me of my pop driving in his little Mazda GLC. And this is a shout out to my pop. This is the Mazda, great little car that he had. And Eddie Rabbit was on the radio, that's for sure.
Nostalgia at its finest. Well, I'll connect you with our good friend David Malloy wrote that song, so we'll connect him to give you a shout out. One thing, leave us with this. We've got about 2 minutes left, but I would love to, and Dave, maybe Dave, your thoughts on this too. Just the connection that this is. Anything you want to say to drivers, and just because in this times of obviously so much division, it's stuff like this. It's the trucking community, it's the gaming community, it's things like these we have to lean on. So both Roscoe and Dave, to each of you, why is this so important that we lean on our communities right now? Dave, you first.
Well, for me, we see that. Listen, I got to tell you guys, and Roscoe, don't hang up on me. What I've done in my career, going back to the early 70s, on the road gang, and now on Sirius XM, and we're heading towards the future, of course, has never been about the trucks. It's always been about the truck drivers. The one-on-one human connection with hardworking people. I come from that same background on the Mississippi River as opposed to the road. So that community, that trucking community, has always been there. My first experience in a truck was I was in high school, ran out of gas, and a truck driver stopped and picked me up and took me to the gas station. And that I can see that picture in my mind right now. But I'm taking much of your time, Roscoe. Get your final thought in here.
Well, I think it's just the fact of, and that's all, definitely, Dave, I definitely thank you for that. And I think a lot of those drivers, of course, thank you for everything that you've done in your career for them. But one thing I will say is that to add to that is there's so much sacrifice that goes into this role. And, as far as a driver out there, that us in the public, because I'm not a CDL driver. I mean, I'm just a guy that plays a video game that, can pray for others. But I'm just, for the fact of, I want to say thank you to them because of what they do. And I've seen them in the industries I've worked in. But, for their sacrifices that they put out there and, go through to, make the deliveries and do what they need to do. I just want to say thank you to you. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. And all of our Roscoe and friends appreciate you as well.
We appreciate you, Roscoe. Head on over to TikTok. Find him at Roscoe713TX. And on all the other, you can also see a post from our page linking. Thank you, Roscoe. Have the best days.